You achieve something, a promotion, a high score, a compliment from someone you respect, and instead of pride, you feel exposed, like someone made a mistake, like you slipped through a system not designed for you. You smile on the outside, but inside, there's a quiet sentence repeating, "I don't belong here." You prepare more than others. You double-check everything. You rehearse conversations in your head. And when things go well, you don't attribute it to skill. You attribute it to luck, or timing, or lowered expectations. This experience has a name, impostor phenomenon. First studied by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes, it describes high-achieving individuals who persistently doubt their competence despite evidence. But here's what makes it complex. It doesn't come from incompetence. It often comes from conscientiousness, from high self-awareness, from sensitivity to standards. The more you understand how much there is to know, the more aware you are of what you don't know. This is related to a cognitive bias known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. Beginners overestimate. Experts underestimate, because expertise increases awareness of complexity. So competence doesn't remove doubt. It often intensifies it. You compare your internal uncertainty to other people's external confidence, but you are comparing different data sets. You see your doubts, you don't see theirs. So your brain concludes they are solid.
I am fragile. But that conclusion is built on incomplete information. You are not a fraud. You are cognitively honest. Imposter feelings are often a byproduct of accurate self-monitoring. Your brain is scanning for gaps, and it finds them, because every skill has edges. But noticing limits is not the same as lacking ability. In fact, it is a marker of growth. When you step into a larger role, your identity has not yet caught up with your performance. There is a lag. Your behavior updates first. Your self-concept updates slowly. And during that gap, you feel like an actor. But you are not acting. You are adapting. Let's look deeper. Your brain maintains something called a self-schema. A self-schema is a mental model of who you are. It organizes memory, expectation, behavior. Think of it as a profile your brain keeps running in the background. I am competent. I am average. I am still learning. Whatever the narrative is, your brain tries to maintain coherence with it. This is called self-consistency theory. When your achievements exceed your current self-schema, a mismatch occurs. The anterior cingulate cortex detects this inconsistency. It flags the mismatch as cognitive conflict. Conflict creates discomfort. Your brain prefers predictability. It evolved to minimize surprise. In neuroscience, this is described through predictive processing. Your brain constantly predicts who you are and how you will perform. When reality outperforms prediction, a prediction error occurs. But here's the twist. Positive prediction errors can feel threatening because they destabilize identity. If you've always seen yourself as not the smartest in the room, and suddenly you outperform others, your internal model lags behind. Your brain thinks, this doesn't match the file. And instead of updating instantly, it protects the old narrative. Why? Because stable identity equals psychological safety. Changing identity requires energy. It requires neural restructuring, and the brain is conservative. It prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar success. So it explains away your achievement, luck, timing. They don't know the real me. This preserves internal consistency, but at the cost of confidence. If imposter feelings are an identity lag problem, then forcing confidence won't solve it. We need psychological alignment. Here are 4 principles grounded in research. Emotions are signals, not verdicts. The amygdala generates emotional responses rapidly, but the prefrontal cortex evaluates evidence more slowly. When you feel like a fraud, pause. Ask, what is the measurable evidence of incompetence? Often, there is none. This activates cognitive reappraisal, a strategy shown in emotion regulation research to reduce distress by reframing interpretation. You are not denying emotion, you are contextualizing it. Self-schemas update through repeated, consistent evidence, not single events. After completing a task well, write it down, track it, document competence. This leverages self-perception theory. We infer identity from observing our own behavior. When you accumulate evidence of capability, the brain begins to adjust the internal file, slowly, gradually, but reliably. Growth expands responsibility. Responsibility expands visibility. Visibility activates social evaluation circuits. The medial prefrontal cortex becomes more active when we think others are judging us. This is not weakness, it is evolutionary wiring. Humans evolved in small tribes. Status mattered. Exclusion was dangerous. So when you step into a higher role, your nervous system interprets it as social risk. Understanding this reduces shame. Your body is reacting to visibility, not proving fraudulence. Perfectionism often fuels imposter feelings because perfection is undefined, and undefined standards cannot be met. Behavioral psychology shows that clear metrics reduce anxiety. Instead of asking, "Am I good enough?" ask, "Did I meet the objective criteria?" Calibration reduces ambiguity, and ambiguity is what amplifies threat detection. The brain fears unclear standards more than high standards. Clarity calms the nervous system. Here is the simple mental model. Imagine your identity as a thermostat. It is set to a certain level of success. When your external achievements rise above that setting, the thermostat tries to cool the room. It sends signals, doubt, self-criticism, discounting praise. Not because you are incapable, but because your internal setting hasn't adjusted. The goal is not to silence doubt instantly. It is to gradually turn the dial, through evidence, through repetition, through cognitive updating. Eventually, the new level of competence becomes normal, and what once felt like exposure feels like equilibrium. You feel like a fraud because your standards are high, because your awareness is sharp, because you see complexity. That is not a flaw, it is sensitivity to reality. The mind that questions itself is often the mind that grows. So the next time that quiet sentence appears, "I don't belong here," pause, notice it, but do not obey it. You are not standing on borrowed ground. You are standing in expanded territory. Your identity is simply catching up, and catching up takes time. Competence is not loud. It is steady. It is accumulated. It is built through repeated evidence. You do not need to feel certain to be capable. You only need to continue. And over time, the voice that says fraud will soften, not because you forced confidence, but because your brain finally updated the file. You were never pretending. You were progressing.